And Mr. Garvin, would you mind doing the invocation?
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you especially for the rain, the warm sunshine. Thank you for the crops of the people and the fields. We just enjoy your kingdom. Father, we want to pray for our meeting today. We pray that you'd bless each of us, and especially our leader. We pray for the visitors today. Father, we want to remember our service people. That we pray for their safety and their soon return home. Forgive us for our sins. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Meredith Craig here. Joe Crittenden. Bill Anglin.
Here.
John Baker.
Here.
Jack Baker.
Here.
Audrey Connor. Don Garvin. Chuck Hoskins. Bill Johnson.
Here.
Taylor King. John Keener. Jackie Bob Martin. Linda O'Leary. Melvin Shothouse. David Thornton. Cherokee Watt. Phyllis Sargent.
We have a quorum. Next order of business is approval of minutes of the moved and seconded. Any discussion on the April 27 minutes? All in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The minutes stand approved. Next item, our reports, Marshal Service. Is anyone? Mr. Redcorn. Captain Redcorn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council.
You bring in that man-cooked food with you?
I don't think okay. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council. Our report for the month of May, in our patrol division, we had 12 civil court processes, 25 arrests, 7 domestic abuse calls, 18 calls were alcohol related, 19 for theft, robberies, or burglaries. For drug controlled substances, we had 12. Assault and batteries, we had 5. 46 assists for other agencies, and 2 calls for child abuse. In our narcotics division, we had both arrests and charges filed, had 11 in state, 1 for federal and 3 for tribal. These include an unlawful delivery of a CDS, 2 counts of those. Cultivation of marijuana, we had 3 counts. Possession of marijuana, 8. Possession of paraphernalia, 8. Possession of methamphetamine, 5. Possession of CDS, 4. And possession with the intent to distribute, 2. In our community division, we had our officers participate in the annual Oaks agricultural event for the entire school. Also on May 3rd, we had Frankie Dreadfulwater and Levi Keeler from the Anti-Meth Coalition do a presentation for the Oklahoma Workforce Conference held in Tulsa at the Marriott. Career Services sponsored this event. May 4th, Dreadfulwater represented the Marshal Service. The annual Meet the Tahlequah Community Representatives held at the Job Corps. May 11th and 12th, Marshal Service assisted the Stillwell Police Department with the Strawberry Festival and participated in some of these events. We also had people running the 5K. May 17th, had Officer Gregory Dreadfulwater assist the Wycliffe School with their annual Cultural Day. Also, Officer Gregory is going to close out, or did close out, various schools with the Eddie Eagle Gun Safety Program. Most of these schools are located in Mays and Delaware counties. And in the future for this summer, these officers are going to beef up patrols in our high-risk neighborhoods because of the schools being out for the summer. They're going to also continue with their block parties, community awareness, and continue to give their presentations within various departments within the Cherokee Nation. In our investigations, one in particular, Mr. Babbitt pled guilty to 3 counts of tax evasion. Poe is still under investigation. The details are restricted through the Rule of 6E. The judge invoked Rule 6E, which states that those involved in the investigation can't discuss it outside that investigation with anybody else. GG is still under investigation, again under Rule 6E. Also within our investigations, we had an embezzlement by an employee. This has been turned over to the Attorney General's office. Grand larceny, which includes the unauthorized use of a debit card. Assisting Craig County with the use of a stolen credit card used at a smoke shop in Craig County, also with 2 suspects. Assisting Tahlequah PD, they located 2 pistols that were stolen from the Bell area, so we're doing a joint investigation on that. 2 cases for the vandalism of the Yeshota house, Yeshota grounds, and they're waiting for comparison prints on that. 1 for lewd acts to a child, 15-year-old girl, both victim and the suspect are Cherokee. It's also been turned over to the Attorney General's office. 3 counts of embezzlement, a burglary at Redbird Addition, 1 theft from tribal property, and domestic that is going to turn out to be state jurisdiction. Also, now we've got separate reports from different investigators. We have 1 sexual assaulted of a 14-year-old female in Kenwood area. Also 1, I believe it's going to be either Mays or Delaware County, with an 8-year-old female who was an uncle. There's the embezzlement at the tribe, which is the one also reflected in the one before. 1 investigation where a teacher received threatening phone calls at Sequoia High School, and a B&E, breaking and entering, which is going to go federal, which is also reflected on the other one. There's the charge that there's a burglary in the Kenwood area. There's going to be 1 charge that's going to come out of that because they harassed the suspect harassed the victim, and that's going to go federal. We had 1 plead guilty and waiting sentence for embezzlement of $3,500. Waiting prosecution number larceny in Kenwood is awaiting tribal prosecution. Also, there was 1 breaking and entering doublehead smoke shop where an arrest was made based on evidence located, and they found the suspect, and there's going to be more involved with that. And 1 burglary of the Kansas smoke shop, which is still pending. There's no suspects in that. For the casinos, also this is outside outpost number 1, embezzlement, which is going to be either tribal or federal. Employees are continuing to be interviewed. They're checking surveillance, and they need a few more days to look into that. West Island Casino, there's embezzlement of $500 to $1,500. A bartender and a supervisor still need to be interviewed. Catoosa Casino, theft of tickets for $1,000. They're waiting for the subject to return to the casino so they can interview him. Fort Gibson, outpost, 2 embezzlements. They're waiting for surveillance. C&E warehouse, illegal or fraudulent CDIB card. Will Rogers Downs, loss of a fan. 1 subject to interview. Catoosa, blackjack dealer, capping bets. Fort Gibson, possible improprieties in refunding tickets. Tahlequah Casino, $500 chip missing from inventory, reported by internal audit. And across, okay. And that's it for the reports from investigations. Have any questions?
Any questions? The arrest that you made that requires incarceration,
Yes, ma'am.
where do you hold these?
If we're holding them on tribal charges, we generally hold them in a facility like Delaware County, Mays County, Cherokee County, Muskogee County, or Adair County, where we have a agreement.
Agreement with them? Oh, okay.
But otherwise, if it's state charges, we'll house them in the jurisdiction where they were arrested.
Oh, I see.
And federal charges, we have to hold them in a federal facility.
Fuel?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When you're talking about some of these things happening at the casino, do you just review all that by video and you can through the hotel?
We do video surveillance, and then we do also interviews and everything else to conduct it.
Interviews with other employees?
Mhm.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? Thank you, Captain Redcorn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Council.
Ms. Hammonds with Justice Department. Sorry, okay.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day. We've had a couple of big successes in the AG's office this past month with appellate actions. Sarah Hill, who does a lot of our Indian child welfare work, I think I've told you before, has had some success in the Oklahoma appellate courts. She got a decision back from the Oklahoma Supreme Court this month in a case. The main title is Nomura, N-O-M-U-R-A, and it just goes another step in talking about interpretation of Oklahoma's Indian Child Welfare Act and what that means. Just basically, this was a case where a biological mother was taken to the state of Florida, tried to relinquish her rights to her Cherokee newborn and place that newborn with a non-Indian family in Florida without complying with Oklahoma law, even though she resided here. The Oklahoma Supreme Court held that Oklahoma's Child Welfare Act and all the protections that go with it applied to this circumstance, so it's a really good win for us, and Sarah's to be commended. She's an awfully young attorney to have received as many appellate victories as she has, and we're very fortunate to have her. The other case, Richard Osborne defended Judge Cripps, Cherokee Nation Tribal Court District Judge Cripps, in a federal lawsuit filed in Muskogee, alleging that Judge Cripps had ruled incorrectly, basically in a paternity action involving a Cherokee child and his Cherokee parents. The district court in the Eastern District, Judge Ronald White, sustained Richard's motion to dismiss on jurisdictional grounds. And basically there's some real good language in there that gives deference to tribal court law, which it should. We are very pleased with that, not only for the victory in this case and for Judge Cripps, but because it demonstrates an articulation on behalf of the federal district judge paying deference to tribal law. So those are two big appellate wins for us. We've also both done a lot of training and gone to a lot of training in the last month. All of us conducted training for Indian child welfare workers at the Cherokee Nation Courthouse. Additionally, Angel Smith conducted an additional training on top of that for, I believe, potential adoptive parents or foster care parents. Several of us went to the Sovereignty Symposium the last few days. I spoke on a tobacco panel. We have also developed some legislation in the last month. Mr. Morton and Ms. Johnson have both developed legislation, which you have on the agenda today, and they'll be talking about that. Those are some of the highlights. Other than that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Hammonds? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Election Commission. Ms. Morton. Not Ms. Morton.
Madam Chairman, Ms. Morton isn't here today. I'm Rick Doherty with the Election Commission. Just preparing for the elections, the upcoming elections. Do have some figures here to share with you all. The total registration of registered voters in the Cherokee Nation is, and these are approximate numbers, not to the exact, but it's around 48,500. Out of that 48,500, 18,600 are at large. As of Monday and Tuesday, approximately 6,000 absentee ballots were put in the mail to the voters, and those were mailed. They should be receiving them or have received them. And since registration is opened up per the court order, there has been approximately 200 people, voters have applied for registration. Questions?
Yes. Mr. King?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are those 200 voters, those are Freedmen citizens?
Yes, sir.
All of them?
Yes, sir.
And the absentee ballots were sent out when?
Depending on, they may have took them to the post office on Monday. Monday was a holiday, but they were originally planned to be mailed out Monday and Tuesday of this week from New Mexico, from where Automated Election Services is.
But a ballot was sent to all registered Freedmen citizens?
Yes, sir.
From 3,300 to 6,000, right? Absentee? I thought that there were only 3,300 absentee ballots requested, so the change up to 6,000 would be automatic ballot sent to Freedmen.
I don't know if it would be that many. Now, the deadline for absentee ballot requesting, if I think I'm right, I think it closed after I was here and gave you a report. So that approximately on the Freedmen, there was 844 previously registered before March 3rd, before the election. After the election, there was 150 whose applications that we were in the process of processing. And then the order to take them off the rolls came down. So that's 994. And then with the 200 new registers, I'd say it's 1,194. And I think, if I remember right, the deadline for applying for an absentee ballot for the election was May 11th.
And again, this is theoretical. If I'm stepping out of order, please tell me. But if we've already sent out the absentee ballots and we're trying to add another provision as a constitutional amendment, are we going to have to send another ballot to all the voters?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is there any risk of us moving the date of the election because of this?
Because of the constitutional amendment?
Yes, sir.
I would hope not.
At this point, to your knowledge, there's no...
Has it been suggested? Yes, I've heard it suggested.
Just as
but not seriously at the Election Commission.
As a voter, we've already sent it to absentee ballots, but now we're going to change it.
Last Friday, Chairman Morton and myself and Mr. Cosby, our attorney, we had a conference call with Mr. Terry Rainey, who is the president of Automated Election Services, about the constitutional question. And he said it is doable, but that the ballots that have to be mailed to the absentee ballot voters, you should expect there will be a decreased number of those that turn back because of time constraints. And he said it would help if we knew we could pre-print the ballot question, if we were fairly certain of the exact language that was going to be there. But I understand y'all meet the 6th, is that correct? So if we pre-printed the ballots and the language changed, obviously we would be back to square one. But it would make it a lot easier, and you would ensure a higher return of your absentee ballots being returned if he could have the ballots already pre-printed. You approved it June 6th, and they were mailed out. Obviously, to the walk-in voters who vote at the polls and the early voters, the early voting that we do at the Election Commission, we'll have the ballots there. That won't be any problem. But normally in an election cycle, he tells us that we can expect somewhere around 85 to 87% of people who request an absentee ballot will mail it back. But with the time on this, on the constitutional question, he said you should expect a lower percentage.
So if there was an additional, there would be 2 ballots that they would send in?
There would be 2 ballots that would send in.
Thank you, Madam.
Any other questions? Oh, yes, President?
The Election Commission voted to give out a list of the freedmen and their phone numbers. Is that available?
I don't know if it's available yet or not. I think though what the list will be, I think we're not separating freedmen voters from other voters. We would give you an updated list, and it would be a complete list of everyone. I don't think we're classifying freedmen voters and other voters.
Do you know when that'll come?
Registration closes today. I would think that perhaps we could have that list generated hopefully by this time next week.
Thank you.
Pam Watts?
How can you give out phone numbers for them if you can't give out phone numbers for everybody else?
Well, I think the law says that there are things that you will provide, and a phone number is one of those things. The newer ones that we have, obviously, we've updated our list, and we might have more phone numbers for the newer ones. But as far as knowing for sure if all the phone numbers are going to be on there, I don't know. And that would be a question of giving out part phone numbers and not everyone's phone number. So honestly, I don't know. It'd be something the commission would need to discuss and visit with Mr. Cosby about.
Kara?
Thank you.
And Mr. Thornton? Mr. Garvin. Mr. Garvin.
That's all right. I'm from Sequoia County. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Rick, I've been getting a lot of calls about notarizing these ballots, and they're really, really upset. And I know it's not your fault, but one person is going to be charged $150 to get it notarized. So she's just not going to be able to vote.
Well,
And I know that we hashed this around for a long time, and it was a close vote, but next time we need to look at this real hard and try to figure out something to do with being on the outside of the envelope. Maybe it costs more. I don't know what it was. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any questions?
good points and bad points, I guess, on notarizing or not notarizing, but it is a law, so that's what we have to abide by right now.
Mr. Henry, did you have a comment?
Mr. Garvin, if you can give me more information on that, would be shocked on why a notary would want to charge $150 to notarize something. If you can give me more information on that, we'll check into that. And
Well,
that doesn't
that's a
sound
big
right.
issue because it's on the outside of the envelope.
Well, that's the only place it is notarized.
Yeah, they're all, even in the state, they're notarized on the outside of the envelope because all you're notarizing is your signature on the outer envelope. But that
That
doesn't.
could be inside, though, couldn't it?
Well,
No, it's good, yeah.
no, you have to do it on the outside, even on the state entity. But there's got to be something more than that, because no person should have to pay $150. I don't care where you're at.
You could just put a piece of paper inside there and notarize it.
It doesn't matter where it's notarized. That's not going to affect a price on a notary. They just stamp it and they sign it.
Signature.
Well, it's a lot of money to get the vote. I know that.
Well, yeah, and I'm saying there's got to be more to that, because give me that information, because if someone's trying to rip this lady off, we need to put a stop to it.
Well, I think that to get the vote for me, they'd go up to 125. But
Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Next item is Tax Commission. Hello, Sharon. Tax Commission. Those pass around.
Passing around a month-to-month comparison for motor vehicle and the tobacco side. The motor vehicle is through April, and it shows a 29.58% increase compared to April of last year in our revenues. And in tobacco, the tobacco tax is approximately 38%. Overall, it's down on tobacco, but overall it has an increase of 65.25%, which is due to the surtax in there, because the surtax was there this year but not last year on that. So that's the difference in those. The tax commission's been out doing regular inspections on our smoke shops. I believe we've been doing 2 to 3 a month. So the smoke shops all know that we're going to be around at one time or another, but we're trying to get all those in. So we are doing our smoke shops. We also sent out a request.
Sharon, hold on just a second. I think Kara had a question on the smoke shop.
I don't know when to ask it, but I keep getting these questions from constituents about the compact and the regulations. Everybody's always upset, well, I live outside the district, I can't get mine, but I know other people that do live outside the district, and how they have them.
For tag?
Yes. So I guess the question is how do we police that? And if they live outside the district,
They have to have a physical address within the 14 county jurisdictional area, and if they have that address and they can prove to us that it is a residence, they have a utility bill, phone bill, things like that that comes to that address, they have to prove that to us whenever they get their tag.
but if it's garaged outside, because what they're seeing is that it's garaged outside the district. I told them if they were really that concerned about it, that they needed to call somebody.
It's really hard for us to decide where it's garaged, because we tell them, that it is supposed to be garaged within the jurisdictional area, and the address they give us is supposed to be their primary residence address.
If they're insistent, who do they turn it into? Because I'm not.
Have them to
really-
call me,
Okay,
and then we will try to check out those tags and see what we can do with that.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We did send out requests for informations to 5 local tag agents just to see if there was any interest in them contracting with us instead of us going out and putting in the agency, seeing if those local tag agents were interested. They were due back on Tuesday. We had a few that had called and needed extra time, so we did send out and extend that time through June the 8th. So for those to be back in. Oh, sorry. Okay, about go right ahead.
Madam Chair, with any of those in Adair County?
We sent it out to Salisaw, Jay, Stillwell, Claremore, and Little
None Westville.
We didn't send one to Westville, but we can. So,
I think, in my opinion, it would be, not to have a few phone calls to me if you would.
sure, we can do that. In fact, I will go back and get a packet out since it's been extended to the 8th. That should still give them enough time to get it back in, and we'll get them a packet out in the next day.
Thank you.
Okay? I think we have our signs up now at the Adair office and the Gore offices, so hopefully that helps some of where they're located at and everything. Other than that, I think that's all I have, unless you have other questions. Thank you for Sharon. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Hanby, self-governance. Self-governance, anyone here?
Commissioners?
I apologize. I was actually on the phone with IHS trying to finish up some negotiations to get our money on the Muskogee joint ventures. So we plan to get that sent in today to FedEx. So that's good news. That's very good news. May was a busy month for us, and I asked Captain Redcorn to stick around because I wanted to brag on him. I said, "Don't leave yet." We attended the self-governance conference in Garden Grove, California last month, and Captain Redcorn was requested to come and speak on behalf of the Marshal Service. He did an excellent job. He spoke on a panel at the general session, so every tribe got to hear his speech. He did an excellent job, and I just wanted to applaud him in front of everyone that he represented the nation well, and we certainly appreciate him taking time out to do that for us.
Excellent, Director Moore. Thank you very much.
I also wanted to add that we had several from the nation who either participated on a panel or moderated a session. We had Tom Elkins moderate a session, Deputy Chief Joe Grayson moderated a general session for a whole afternoon. I think his voice was about to give out by the time the day was over, but I wanted to applaud our staff who attended. We had several people who from other tribes who didn't show up to fill in their part, and our staff stepped up and filled in wherever necessary, and I wanted to publicly acknowledge them for that Cherokee Nation was represented very well, and I appreciate them doing that. As follow-up to the conference, there were a couple of things on DOI, several issues that came out too that I want to specifically mention to you today. Carl Artman issued the negotiation guidance for 2009. He mentioned in there that he wanted to handle the footnotes section of the funding agreement differently. He didn't want those included in the actual agreement. Those footnotes are a lot of times either notations to further detail of the agreement, or in some cases it may be on some things that we agree to disagree on. And the tribes had, we took issue with that. However, we have already sent a letter to him outlining some issues from the conference and are getting some feedback from that.
Can you hear me now?
Anyway, we're getting some feedback on that, and the tribes are trying to negotiate with him on how we're going to deal with that. One solution is to handle the footnotes in the same way that we do with the Indian Health Service. So we're coming up with some options to work with him on that. Another issue that came out was I've reported to this body in the past that the self-governance database, which is set up to allow tribes to go in and view your payment history, your funding history, all the way back. We can go all the way back to the beginning of when we started self-governance. 2007 is not on that website because they were updating the database and doing some cost code changes. Whenever the BIA began to bring that back online for the tribes, they ran into some issues with Homeland Security and some of their information systems staff in regards to allowing tribes to have access to this database. There's read-only access and also data input access. They currently, where it stands right now, are going to require security clearance for even read-only access, which to me makes no sense. It's our information that we can see. It's public information. So the tribes are pushing back on that. That's another thing that we took issue with, and we are trying to work with them to resolve some of those issues in conjunction with Homeland Security. Also, in regards to DOI, we've set negotiations for June the 15th. We've already submitted a draft to them. There's nothing that we're proposing as an update to our funding agreement. It's just taking the agreement that we already have and the amendments we've already agreed to and incorporating those into one document. So we're not actually negotiating anything, at least from our side, that would be new. We just received word before I came over that the roads addendum template that was included in with the guidance has been approved. Also, I wanted to mention a couple of things that are coming up. The BIA has set a training for June the 25th through the 28th, and we'll have several staff throughout the nation to attend that. They put it on fairly regularly. It's held at Muskogee. They bring people to us to do the training, which I think is a good thing to try to make it more accessible to the tribes in this area. June the 26th through the 28th is a National Indian Child Welfare Conference to be held in Albuquerque, and we'll have staff from Indian Child Welfare in attendance at that. In addition, there will be a National General Assistance Work Group established, and they'll be having a meeting in the near future. The reason for the national work group to be established is the BIA has determined that they want to change the distribution methodology of general assistance. So this work group is going to try to provide some input into how that will be done. And we'll be sharing more information on that as information becomes available. We have also been working with evaluation and compliance on several issues with internal reviews and SAS 112, which is a new auditing standard in regards to internal control. And we're working in conjunction with CNB, CNE, CNI, all the entities to implement that. And so Tom Elkins and I are working with Don Vaughn to implement that from internal control. As I mentioned briefly earlier on IHS, to date we've not been paid any funds on the Muskogee joint venture, and we are, as of today, we've reached agreement on contract support cost language, and we'll be sending that in, and hopefully we should receive payment within, they promised us they would get it turned around in a couple of days, so we should receive payment next week on the Muskogee joint venture for 07. And I believe that's all that I have, unless there's any questions or comments.
Any questions? Vicki, why does the Department of Interior not want the footnotes listed?
Well, Mr. Artman, as you know, is an attorney, but his view on that is the footnotes are items that we cannot agree on, but we want to memorialize within the agreement. And his stance is that a funding agreement should be an agreement, those things that you can agree upon, not what you cannot agree upon. The position of the tribes, however, is that in a lot of situations, if we don't agree, you don't move forward. And we wanted at least memorialized in the agreement the differences that we may have, or sometimes it's just further detail in regards to a specific issue. But that's his view. He sees those as disagreements and that they should not be included in the funding agreement.
Okay. That's all I have. Any further questions? Thank you very much. Mr. Hummingbird, Gaming Commission.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker, council members. Believe it or not, it has been a busy month for the Gaming Commission. We've had a flurry of activity going on at our gaming facilities, and by that I mean we've had a lot of machine activity. We have had a good portion of compact machines come back into our facilities, making our total count go up to 3,955 machines. Of that, 60% of those machines are now under the compact status, and the remaining are still in the Class 2 status. That has just been about 300 to 400 machines over the last 2 weeks, which in the great scheme of things may not sound like a lot, but that has been a flurry of activity for me and my staff. And we can expect another 300 to 400 machines to come in over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. So the numbers that I'm reporting to you now are, as far as percentages on the compact machines, are going to go up. And as well as not only just due to the acceptance of the machines, but we're also experiencing a bit of expansion right now. The short-term expansion, if you will, is going to be happening over at the Fort Gibson facility. I'm not sure if anybody has driven by it recently in the past few days, but they are getting ready to add one additional modular building onto the existing casino. That will translate into about 118 new machines, and that will be getting them up close to 320 machines total. They have 184 now. So they are going to be definitely trying to meet the demand that market's placing on them. In addition to that, they'll have a small increase in staff. I'm not sure about the numbers right now, but you can expect anywhere from 15 to 20, I would suppose. So they're employing, I believe, 55 people over there at the Fort Gibson facility now, so they should be going up close to 75 to 80. So that's a good thing. It's good problems to have. The expansions at Catoosa and West Alum Springs, I'm sure you'll hear this from CNE as well, but from my perspective...
Jamie, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Ms. Yargi.
Thank you, ma'am. Jamie, just out of curiosity, how much is, or maybe you're not the person to ask, but what's the cost of one of those modular buildings?
It really depends on what you get with it and how good a condition the building is in, if it's new or if it's used. The one that CNE is getting is previously owned, and it does come pre-fitted for ventilation systems, and it was pre-used in a casino setting. I don't know the exact cost on that. I can find out for you. But rough ballpark guess, I would say $30,000-$35,000 for the size that they're getting, which is about, if you hadn't asked the question, I could have told you the square footage. But depending on the size, it is comparable to the existing size as far as dimensions on width of the existing facility. But you could look at those facilities probably about $30,000-$35,000.
And the house, how many machines?
This one's going to house about 118, but that is including space taken up for bathrooms and for what we call back-of-house operations, where you have the cashiers, where you have the data closets for machine servers and such. So it's not all going to be all pure gaming space. There's going to be some back-of-house type operations too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
The expansions from a regulatory perspective for West Alum Springs and for Catoosa are also getting underway for us. We're going to be looking at quite a bit of activity, and you may wonder why we are getting into the picture so early on as far as the expansions go. Part of what we do is we monitor the environmental, public health, and safety portion of the facility. So once the construction of any facility goes or begins, or if there's changes to a facility, or even after the facility opens, we are responsible for looking at that facility to make sure it's abiding by all the applicable environmental, public health, and safety laws, whether they're federally mandated or tribally mandated, or both. And we will be looking at things such as water and sanitation, storage of hazardous chemicals, emergency preparedness plans, things of those natures. So we will be active in all phases of the development of these facilities. It's not just once machines and gaming, machines or gaming tables are active. It's from day one. So as we progress through that process, I'll keep you up to date as much as I can. On the federal side, we have a great many issues of proposed rulemaking from the National Indian Gaming Commission. They are looking to do a number of things, a number of proposed changes to existing rules and a number of new rules that they want to adopt. As for the changes, they are wanting to modify the way they assess fees on all the gaming operations. Currently, they go to a quarterly-based fee payment system. They want to make it easier on tribes for a change and go to a biannual or twice-a-year payment. The fees themselves aren't going to change. They're going to probably go up a little bit because NIGC continues to add personnel to their regulatory scheme. But they're also looking to make changes in new areas such as facility licensing. This is an area that they've never been in before. It's primarily been the purview of the Tribal Gaming Commission. And the NIGC now is wanting to establish baselines for all new facilities and even existing facilities to compare to. And with that, we will be required to provide NIGC with information, as I mentioned earlier, about environmental, public health, and safety, what standards we follow, how often we assess those, or do reviews in those areas. We would have to provide them with documentation on the land status. There's a great many things that we would have to provide the NIGC that we've never had to before. These, as I mentioned, at this point are in just draft proposal. They have not been promulgated in the Federal Register. Comments were submitted to them by the 15th according to their deadline, and we can expect a draft proposal sometime, I would expect maybe next month, to be published in the Federal Register. The one caveat is if the NIGC gets enough comments in a particular area, they have been known to delay their publication, but given the time frame that I've talked with NIGC staff, they are looking to make a publication in these areas very quickly. And as I mentioned, I would believe July would be a time frame in which they would get these rules out there. In addition to that, the NIGC is also looking to promulgate technical standards for Class II machines. This has been about a 4-year process. I've been on an advisory committee with them for 4 years now. And we are now getting to the point where both the NIGC and the tribes agree on the set of standards that are coming out. In addition to that, we're working with them on internal controls that complement the technical standards that we issue out there. And this is something, the technical standards themselves are something that is, I think, can be accepted by all those that will be involved, including the manufacturers and operators. It's not the best deal for the tribes, but we knew going into it that we were going to be not necessarily on the losing end, but we were not going to be the most happy when we left the table. But we tried to make it the impact on tribes to the least extent that we could, because we knew whatever impact we had was going to be first and foremost on the revenues. So we tried to make it as such where the revenue stream was protected and as little impact on the operations could be felt. So we're fairly confident that that is also going to be published probably within the next 30 to 45 days. We're under very, very tight time frame. Our window of opportunity to get the internal controls drafted ends at the end of this month. So we are riding fast and furiously trying to get those documents created. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? I guess not, Jamie. Thank you for the report.
Thank you very much.
Next is Mr. Hembry on codification.
Same report as last month. We're going to still have the goal of having the codification done by the end of the fiscal year. Ms. Hammonds and I have been preoccupied with other legal issues this last month, and so we respectfully will just pass it on to next month and see where we get to.
Todd, as you know, the court wanted us to bring all laws current in accordance with the new Constitution.
Right.
What is going on with codification, is that a process that we can rely on to get all of these laws brought up to the new Constitution? What they're doing now?
Well, the codification process is taking the amendments that and new laws that we've passed and getting them into the right sections and titles. As it goes through there, if there is a law that the new Constitution makes unconstitutional, we'll bring that to effect. But the mere fact that we have a new Constitution will not necessarily change laws. There will be or change the codification process. There may be some stylistic changes, such as changing Judicial Appeals Tribunal to Supreme Court. Adding in Attorney General where it said General Counsel in the past. Those type of stylistic changes. But other than that, there shouldn't be any major differences between the codification process under the 76 Constitution and under the 99 Constitution.
So do you consider we still need to establish a committee to study the laws and bring them in compliance, or?
Well, that is part of but by all means, that would be welcome. But still, the group in Oklahoma City Law School is still working on categorizing all that information. And when they get complete, we'll be able to go to the next step, which would be a review by a subcommittee or working group from this committee.
So your suggestion is wait until the codification process is complete?
From that one stage, from OCU, and then you review the work as it stands and approve it and go with it from there.
Okay. Clear? Finally clear. Thank you. Next order of business is old business. Corporation Reform Act.
I'll get Mr. Baker.
Okay.
Mr. Baker has asked that matter be tabled to next month.
Someone want to move the table? Moved in second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Next item under old business is an act providing for sanctions and other punishment for individuals that commit misrepresentation to the council.
Make a motion to table that for now, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Do I have a second? Moved in second. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. Now moving on to new business. This is a resolution electing to participate in the National Sex Offender Registry System. Is that Becky? How are you today, Ms. Johnson?
I'm good, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just in a brief introduction to this, what this is about is the federal Congress passed last year the Adam Walsh Act. It's also sometimes known as the Sexual Offender Registration and Notification Act. It requires basically baseline information, minimal requirements for all jurisdictions to have sex offender registration, and it specifies the information that each jurisdiction must collect, and also states that must be made available to the public via website.
Hold on just a second. Move to approve. Second. Moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. That was easy, Becky. Thank you. Thank you. Item 2 is a resolution rescinding Resolution 6306 on citizenship. And that is that Mr. Morton? Or is that you?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just a resolution to rescind 6306, which proposed the constitutional amendment that has now been voted on March 3rd.
So it's just a housekeeping thing. Mr. Baker?
Move for its approval.
Okay. Moved in second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And item 3 is an act amending the Freedom of Information Act, Privacy Act. Let's see, who is that?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I authored this act on behalf of Ms. O'Leary, who's the sponsor. The purpose of this act is to close a loophole or a gap in the Freedom of Information Act. Currently, it requires commissions and other government bodies to post an agenda. But unfortunately, we did not put a time by which they must post their agenda, so there are instances in which governmental bodies have posted their agenda literally minutes before their meeting time, and that's not the intent of the act, and nor is it appropriate. We have come up with the time frame of 10 days prior to a regular meeting of a public body, which a public body is defined in the act already, which is the same time frame that the council would have. And plus, it would add that they must post their agendas 24 hours before a special meeting. So it would also take into account items in which emergencies may encounter. I forwarded this act to Attorney General Hammonds and Secretary of State Knight, and I believe they are in concurrence, but I'd let them speak for themselves.
Ms. Hammonds, did you want to comment on that?
Just to reiterate what Mr. Hembry said, this was something that's needed to be done for a long time, and in fact, many of us wrongfully assumed that it was in the law, and it was not. So it is something that has needed addressing. I think we made some comments that have been incorporated into your...
I haven't incorporated them in. I know you made comments, but
Okay.
I haven't done anything. That's why I asked you this morning if it's okay. The comments that I read were not substantive in nature.
Okay.
Mr. Garvin?
Or my meeting they were.
Did you have a question?
I'm going to move for approval if they're going to say it.
I think we have it settled.
Moved and second. Any more discussion?
There is a typo in it on Section 5, last sentence, or Section 5A. It says 10 days prior to any regular meeting of a public body, and change that of to or 24 hours in case of a special meeting. Prior to full council, I will get back with Ms. Hammonds. If there's any tweaking of this legislative act, we will be able to make it on the floor, but I do not foresee that.
We have all in favor of aye of including this change, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries
By acclamation.
by acclamation. Legislative Act amending Title 10, and that is Mr. Morton.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
This act would do three things. It adds a definition to what constitutes a deprived child in a juvenile hearing. It also changes the requirement of a jury trial at the deprived stage. It does maintain that the parents or the other person entitled to notice will get a jury trial at the termination stage if that's necessary, but it will no longer have a jury trial at the deprived stage. And also, the third part is an attempt to clarify what the actual burden of proof needs to be at the hearings. And that part actually has more of a time constraint because I'd like to have that in place by the next jury term, which is in August.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. By acclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing the Cherokee Nation website to be registered as a government domain. Good afternoon, Todd.
Good afternoon. I understand that perhaps you guys have not received a copy of this yet? Resolution?
Pass it out.
Pass that out.
How come we hadn't got it yet?
I faxed it out and I emailed it.
Oh, I didn't know you. Go right ahead.
You can fax it out again. They probably didn't bring them.
I've got a copy in my packet here.
There's a copy in your packet.
No, it's the same.
This the same one?
Yes. I heard that you guys didn't have it, so I just want to make sure.
Oh, no.
Oh, please.
But it is
I've got it.
the same.
You're more efficient than you thought.
I know, I just didn't know. Mrs. don't know how much.
Basically, what this is back in 2003, 2004, I started on a venture to try and sign up for a .gov domain since we are a tribal government. And at that time, USDA was heading up the registration of the .gov domains, and they were struggling because they gave the example of Cherokee. There's a Cherokee tribe, there's a Cherokee County, there's a Cherokee City, and everybody was vying for the .gov domain. And so they formalized, set up some structure, and basically for Native American tribes, they set up -nsn.gov. And as soon as they set that up in 2004, 3 years ago, I went out and reserved our name, and so our domain name would be Cherokee-nsn.gov. And I've had several pieces of correspondence back and forth with the BIA and the Department of Interior, as they have to approve that before it even gets sent on to the registrar. And basically what they require is that we have a resolution naming the official that will sign the letter requesting the .gov domain. It's a matter of formality at this point, but we do
Garvin?
have that resolution.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Tom. Number 6 is an act relating to the accountability of elected officials. And that is you, Ms. Town? What?
Yes. I'd like to take a little bit of time to introduce this legislation. I had lots of emails and phone calls with concerns about elected officials and appointed officials, assisting folks from outside or inside the tribe to attack us in the courts and in the press. And they were concerned about that. So some of the things that this legislation considers and looks at to bring in line with what I would hope our behavior is that family members couldn't go out under this legislation, wouldn't be earning hundreds of thousands of dollars from the Cherokee Nation or tens of thousands without disclosing it and making it part of the public documentation. We wouldn't have people leaking confidential information to the press, which I believe has cost the Cherokee Nation money. We would have to then, of course, disclose doing that business with the nation, and it would stop some of this Benedict Arnold type behavior of those people that have been helping folks who are suing the tribe at this time. And those are some of the comments that I've actually gotten. So, and there's concern about folks actually helping other governments who are in competition with the Cherokee Nation. So what it would do is this would take action that it would set up the rules and the guidelines for how this kind of behavior would be a violation of our oath of office, and it would help protect whistleblowers and confidential personnel information. But I wanted to, if I could, read back in, it's already public record because it was actually from meeting minutes, and I won't say who it was, but the quote is from this very body. This has come at us at a couple of times. There's been a dozen or a half a dozen versions of it. Well, we're talking about conflicts of interest, and I care how you paint it or how you color it or how you portray it. Open it up to where my wife can sell furniture to the Cherokee Nation is wrong, and anybody that's sitting at this table that believes that if your son or daughter is working for the Cherokee Nation, there won't be undue influence or being pretty naive. I think it's an indictment waiting to happen, and I think it's a terrible, terrible, terrible policy for us to even consider that would be okay for our kids or our wives or us. The way I read it, if I own 100% of a business, and as long as I tell it, then it's, I'm not sure how to read that. I make more money when I'm not on the council selling furniture and such to the Cherokee Nation than I do on the council. And for me to have to redress and to double dip is unthinkable, and for anybody to believe it's okay, it's wrong, and that's it. So I think there's other people on this body that believe strongly that this legislation would probably be appropriate and that it would bring to light some of these issues in an appropriate way.
Excuse me. If we're going to discuss or debate this item, we need to have a motion in a second.
She's introducing the item, so we are.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Issue.
So I invite anyone at this time that feels as strongly about these issues to co-sponsor this with me.
because there have been a couple of issues brought up about the actual language of the legislation from the lawyers. So I'm going to actually ask to pull it from this agenda and put it on next month's agenda. But before I do that, I'd like to just invite anyone to co-sponsor with me, because I think there's folks that feel just as strongly. I mean, they've indicated it in debate before, and that way we have a month to work out logistics, and I'd like to partner with everybody and work on this legislation. So,
Mr. King, you had your hand up.
No.
Okay. So you're just going to pull it at this point?
yes, and
Okay.
put it on next month's agenda. But I wanted to introduce it so that folks knew what the intent was.
Okay. Has been pulled.
One more comment, Madam Chairman.
Right?
This legislation is the most ridiculous legislation that I've seen come across this council table. What this does is it purports a socialistic atmosphere here at Cherokee Nation.
Wait a minute, we can't get into a debate
Well,
over
I'm
this.
saying,
She's already pulled
call it
it.
point of order or whatever, but this is a dictatorship designed to not be a transparent government to our people.
Okay,
And that's it. We're going to vote next, we'll
Mr.
vote
Thornton,
next
did
month.
you have a comment?
Yes, is that all that was in this act? I don't have it in front of me, I haven't seen it. Is there anything else? Conflict of disclosure, of business interest?
Is that all you need, Mr. Thornton? But she hasn't
No,
pulled it.
what I'm reading here looks like maybe this is a gag order.
It is.
I think we better look at it real clear before we vote on this one.
Okay, the item's been pulled until next month. Next are announcements. The next meeting date is June 28th. Is that Thursday or Friday? Thursday, June 28th. Mr. Baker.
I believe everyone's been invited to the opening of the Timberlake exhibit at the Smithsonian, which we help fund the reception for, which is on Wednesday night, June 27th. And I'll be attending that and will not be back in time to attend the meeting on the 28th. So I'm requesting that we move it to Friday, the 29th.
Second. Moved in second to move the next rules meeting from June 28th at 1 o'clock to June 29th at 1 o'clock, which is a Friday.
Yes.
Right. Moved and second. Any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Sharkey?
I just have a comment. I just think that it's really nice that we can adjust our schedules for whatever requests that come before us. I really appreciate it. I know that someone was anxious to get back on Fridays with this upcoming month, but I'm glad that we're able to adjust for our council members as we need to. Thanks for bringing that up.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, so it's moved to June 29th at 1 o'clock. Just a moment, I'm not ready. As you got a note, I think Gail sent out to everyone on the meeting with the UKB, and they suggested July 14th, which is a Saturday. Does anyone have any problem with July 14th? How many will not be able to be here, I guess I should ask? 1, 2, on July 14th. That's after elections. What about that?
Yeah, I'll be on 13, 14, 15.
Any other dates that anyone wants to suggest? Okay, unless we don't have a quorum from that meeting, we'll just go ahead and I'll call them and tell them July 14th at 9 o'clock. Did you have something? Somebody had up their hand. Oh, Todd.
I believe Ms. Sams, she had talked to the staff and said that they were going to give her a few minutes or a few sentences to talk about something that she's passing out or interested in.
And this is in relation to what?
The Indian Child Welfare Act.
Oh, okay, okay, sure.
My name is Lori Sam. I'm just a Cherokee citizen, and I'm not a politician. But I have a petition that in a couple of days has collected over 400 signatures, including Chad Smith, Oklahoma Senator Jim Wilson, and Bill Baker's. And what it basically is saying in a nutshell is that if you are a state or a state agency and you take a child in that is a member of a federally recognized tribe, you must follow the Indian Child Welfare Act. And if the tribe wants to assume jurisdiction over that case, they need to cooperate with the tribe and assist the tribe in doing that transfer. And in particularly here, I'm talking about my own case out of Illinois that has continually violated the Indian Child Welfare Act, ignored the tribe, and ignored the tribe's request by Judge Fite to transfer the case. So I'm collecting signatures. I'm going to give them to various government agencies, and I just wanted to see if I could pass it around, and if any of you would like to sign it, that's your option, but I would appreciate the support.
Anybody object to her doing that? Guess not, so send it to Mr. Martin.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
In the meantime, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. 29.